Hello and welcome back to the post-holiday edition of Reaper Pro Tips with mostly Quindy, a tiny bit of Justin, and occasionally John. How are you all? Sorry, Quindy, about the food poisoning. Yes. Welcome back. Indeed. Here I am after the con. It's also the post-con edition. So my throat is a little rough because I totally lost my voice. So KublaCon was this weekend, as you all know. I was teaching and also judging. So yeah, Saturday I was like no voice because it was masking. They were masking still. Woof. Trying to teach through a mask really hurts. Because I just subconsciously try to project more. And I'm not, of course, none of us are used to it right after being like isolating and with the COVID stuff. So my voice was definitely not in shape for that. Yeah, well, I don't drink any more Shadow Ravens, so the only thing I can really do to abuse myself is to overeat and not get enough sleep. And happily I didn't go to the con on Memorial Day itself. That was definitely a day off yesterday for David and I, so. Yeah, I guess so, Miss Dim. I don't know. It's just so hard to teach, though. I'll tell you, I won't do it again. I won't do a masking at a con ever again. Like, if there's masking, I'm going to have to cancel at the last minute, because it really hurt. Like, my throat actually hurt. Like, it was raw, like, that night. So, not doing it. Not doing it anymore. I'll go and mask, but I won't teach. It's just so hard to project. But anyway, other than that, it was a really good con. The miniatures event crew, Wayne and Meredith and Michael and Nathan this time. And I think there was another guy and I totally forget his name. So I'm sorry, other guy, if you're watching. But they have a really good crew at Kubla for miniatures events. So everybody was awesome. Meredith was on it. And Michael was super helpful. And so was Nathan. And yeah, it was all really great. And Wayne was his usual awesome self. So you can tell if I'm going to be clearing my throat, just because I still have a bit of a frog in it. But yeah, so yeah, it was a good con, and I did this happened. A best in show trophy happened. Shiny. Here, I'll hold it up in my face cam. It's a shiny best in show trophy for an Anne. So I got that. Which is the second trophy. After 20 years of winning no trophies, it is now the second trophy in a single year. Yeah, so Halfling Assassin won Best in Show. Yeah, and I mean, Laszlo entered, Laszlo and Rachel, and David didn't enter this year, but Ivan had a really nice GW model that I thought, I voted for it. So yeah, so I think that's actually my first Best in Show, if I'm thinking. Probably. There were about 90 entries, I think, which for a small con is quite good. It's better than the first ReaperCon, actually. And the second ReaperCon. Maybe even the third ReaperCon. It's better than several ReaperCons. But yeah, it's like a good and growing, like, Bay Area has always had a good painting community. Like, for 2 decades, they've had a great painting community, maybe more. And so, but there are a lot of newer people getting in and taking the classes. Like, they only started doing paid classes a few years back. Declearment only rarely. But this one, Laz is a huge, like, 80s art fan. And so he essentially he had a model that was based on one of the Elric book covers. It may have been Stormbringer. It may have been the first book. But essentially the Elric cover was done by Michael Whalen, and it was when Michael Whalen was heavily Frazetta influenced. So Laszlo took the model and built it up to look like to look more like the cover, and then painted it in that style. So it was really cool. So I think Laz only paints like when a very specific project like appeals to his artistic side, because he loved that cover and he loved the Elric series. So like, yeah, Elric of Melniboné by Michael Moorcock, for those who are not familiar. I think it's the first time a soul-stealing sword appears in fantasy fiction, actually. I think Stormbringer may have been the first evil soul-stealing sword. So yeah. It was cool, and the coolest thing was that he actually owns the paperback with that cover art, and he scanned the cover art and he put it up in a little standee next to the diorama. So it was really cool. That one got several. I know that one got a lot of votes. I think Ivan's did, Rachel's did, mine did. Like I suspect I only barely edged out other people because there was the top cream was very good stuff. So yes, so there we go. But yeah, so that happened. It's a nice little con. Like if you are in the Bay Area or in Southern Oregon or in SoCal, it's not a bad idea to come up. Every once in a while we actually pull even bigger names like Steven Garcia, or like we had Matt DiPietro come down. Depending on how the teaching program progresses, like I could see the competition like going, but we also have, and they also split this competition into 2 levels. So it's journeyman and masters. So essentially, if you get a gold in journeyman, you are encouraged to enter masters the next year. So it's one of those competitions that does do the break. If I had to kind of generalize, I would say that journeyman tends to be a bit like the certificate bronze cutoff at ReaperCon, and then like masters tends to be more the silver gold level. So yeah, it's different, and it has different judging teams, and it's cool. Yeah, it's always Memorial Day weekend, Raven Day. It's always Memorial Day. But yeah, a lot of people from our local paint club, like AJ was teaching oil painting this year and miniatures photography. I was teaching NMM and color theory, and David taught his advanced highlighting and shading class, which is a lot about like volumetric shading and lighting, and it's really cool. So there was a lot of cool classes taught by a whole bunch of people. But yeah, just like ReaperCon's always Labor Day, KublaCon is always Memorial Day. So those are like the cons capping the ends of summer there. All right, let's do some more symbols today. We have a choice. Do you guys want to do like the NMM gold trim, like get some of the trim blocked in on her and started? Or would you rather we keep working on the little alchemical symbols on the back of the cape? Do you have a preference? Because I'm easy today. I'm just like hanging out, man. I made ribs yesterday, by the way, for Memorial Day. And David grilled corn. So it was a co-op dinner. It was pretty good. Trim, please? All right. Yeah, because she's looking so blank on the front. We've got 2 trims and 1 symbols. I'm not going to do a formal vote this time. Anyone who cares should type in the chat. Also, allergies. Ugh. Trim. We've got a lot of trims. All right. Excellent. Yeah, a lot of trims. All right, cool. Let us do that then. Except that, of course, all my paint has traveled elsewhere, and it's all in the other room. 1 second. We were unpacking from the con, and I had to grab a bunch of stuff. Let me go grab it real quick. It's all in a caddy. Alrighty. I was doing an NMM class, so of course I had all my NMM paint dragged out to go with me. Makes sense, right? My russet brown, there's my walnut. There we are. Oof. Excellent. Excelente. Yeah, it's just been really dry here, and there's a lot of dust in the air, so... And my throat's still all, like, mucusy because my vocal cords hate me. But other than that, all good. So, yay! I am kind of relieved the con is by. Like, now I have a few weeks of just, like, fun. It's summer. I like to take it easy in the summertime. Like, I like to just kind of, like, sit back and chill at home and take little day trips maybe, but that's about it. So I'm kind of happy that I've got a few weeks. My next thing is I'm going home, and I'll be going off stream in a few weeks, a couple of days. I'll let you know, Quindy. But my niece is graduating from high school, so her graduation party is like third weekend of June, and I'm going in a little early because if I'm gonna pay $1,000 to fly to Wisconsin, like I'm gonna stay for a few days and actually see my family, right? Yes, I won Best in Show, Kerniko. Yeah, she's actually got a sports scholarship to I forget which Findlay, I think. My family is big into volleyball. Pete, my brother, and my sister-in-law, like they played competitively in school, and so Lauren got started really early, and she made it on a sports scholarship. So yeah, and that's hard. Apparently, it's really hard. So we're very proud of her, and hopefully she really enjoys it. But she will be playing volleyball, a lot of volleyball. This is only my second trophy in 20 years, Twistnoma, so others is, like, others plural, I guess it exists because of my Golden Demons, but they were long ago. Oh, nice. Nice, yeah, it's nice to be there, Shadow Raven. But yeah, so that'll be me going to Wisconsin for a few days. I think I'm off. I think I took Thursday and Friday. And then actually, like, right after that in early July is David's mom's birthday and his parents' 50th wedding anniversary, I think, celebration. So that's another time. So I do have a couple of blurps throughout the summer where I'll be taking a couple days away from the stream. But not too much. Not too much. I'm going to pop some russet brown, and for a shadow for this, I'm going to use a combo, like kind of probably a 2-to-1 russet brown to walnut. Walnut itself is too dark and too black, I feel. But I do want something just a tad darker than russet brown. So it's russet brown, as you can see, is a nice dark brown. But remember with NMM, as I was teaching all weekend, if your shadows aren't dark enough, it's not going to look shiny. So you do have to get to a certain point of dark to have it work. But you gotta be careful transitioning from a really yellow brown like rich leather, which is going to be our base. You gotta be careful transitioning from that really yellow brown up to like something that's too black, like walnut. Because then you're just gonna go a little green when the black and the yellow mix. Oh, you should totally, if you choose, like, if you make a budget Raven Day and you're not afraid to fly, go to ReaperCon. Like, if you are in the hobby and in the painting community and you have to choose a single con to go to and you could go to anyone you want, go to ReaperCon. Like, can't say it enough. Can't say it enough. Local cons are cool, and Kubla is cool, of course, because then you can get to know the people in the community. Like, you can meet people, and you have a smaller group of people to, like, wrangle. But seriously, ReaperCon. Oh, I do have a poll to put up, Quindy. Quindy, I have a poll. So, we finish Female Bunny, right? We finished her. And I did not choose a replacement, but I have two options. Because she was our Bones USA, although this is also a Bones USA, but who cares? So, either, and I need this polled for sure, either we do Male Bunny, which I'm met on, but I could do it, or we do Wizard Guy, really cool Wizard Guy, who I actually am quite fond of. So either Damrus, the wizard, with his cool scroll and everything, and his cool outfit, or Male Hairfolk. So we need to have a poll for this one because it's important. When it's the next model we're going to be spending time with. So, yeah, of course, that's a bummer. Oh, okay, yeah. Super awesome. Yeah, if you have family in your Denton, there's a no-brainer. So, there we go. The poll is up. Go and vote. Yeah, I mean, the bunny I could do gray fur on or something. I could do something different, but the wizard is a bit different, so I feel like the wizard is a good call. So yes, these are the two choices. Go vote. Go vote in the top thing. It's either Bunny's bro, the brother of Bunny, or Damrus Deveril, the wizard. I like this model. I think he's pretty cool. Got a cool outfit on. I like cool outfits. Plus, he's got a really sumptuous outfit on, so we could pick some, like, maybe purple and orange or some weird colors for him, which would be awesome. So, yeah. So, paint. Go ahead and vote your vote. Vote your vote, peeps. Tell me what I should scribble on next. Scribble on with paint. But yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of chilling now. I don't have to worry about, like, prepping stuff for class or... if I go to ReaperCon, if I do get to ReaperCon with the puppy, then I'm not going to teach. I'm just going to come down and, you know, chillax. Pop these colors over into my thing. I will still, like, do, like, if you guys need a demo or something, you can always approach me at the paint table, Painter Central. That's cool. Oh, I guess I should vote. I should vote. Oh, wow. I think we have an overwhelming winner. Oh, boy. Yeah, Corsair, it's rare, right? Like, and this is funny. I was talking about this, actually, to people at the con. So there's my mix. I've got a couple drops of walnut and 4 drops of russet brown. And then I've got rich leather. Let's cover up some of this so you can see the colors. Okay, so now you can see that color right there. So it's a really rich dark brown with a couple drops to darken it. And then we've got the rich leather. We'll start out with that. We'll start out with our shadows for this time. And this is actually interesting NMM to talk about because it's so flat. And it's all pretty much facing the same direction except for this stuff up on top of her bust and shoulder. So it's going to be like, how do you paint NMM in the neutral zone? And make it look right. So we'll do that. Hi, Carrie Michael. Wow, you are almost to your double subiversary. My favorite subiversary is the double subiversary because of the The lack of bunny support is disheartening. It's because you already just got a bunny. Don't worry, Korniko. He's still, like, any model that doesn't win is still kind of in my rotation pile, so we may get there. Bunnies are delicious. Yes. Oh, nice. Board Game Geek Spring Con for a paint and take. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Well, especially with so many board games with great models. Like, actually, that's what I've got. That's what I've got trash right now on my bench is I was prepping some Bard Sung. Because we got our Bard Sung, and although it seems there are hiccups in the rules, they've at least done an errata sheet. And, you know, what game comes out without issues? So I've got the first monster encounter guys, like, on my bench to speed paint. I'm going to pull a David. That David taught me to do this. Like, he totally, when you're getting burned out on, like, trying your best, go and paint some board game models or some, like, quick gaming figures and just, like, relax. Paint something that you can just, like, happily half-ass, I guess, is really what it comes down. What it comes down to. I'm not sure. Like, don't we normally have a little tiny one? But most people, like, prefer to paint with the stuff they bring. I'm not sure on that, though, Corsair. Since I'm not in the meetings anymore, since I'm not on site, I don't know. Yeah, happily half-ass. Amen to that, D. Clearman. Exactly. Yes. Yes, when you're getting burned out on the hobby, guys. And it counts, too, if you're changing scale to try to get away from your burnout. You can absolutely happily half-ass a bust. So... Yeah, Raven Day, if you've noticed that trend, then yes. Then you just gotta relax and have fun. Relax and have fun. Remember that you can always... With my models, this happens all the time. I start them out and they don't look like fantastic, and I don't try too hard. Yay, Wizard Guy! Woo! He wins. And I don't, like, try too hard when I'm setting it up. It's just that, you know, if you, whatever you do up front, you don't have to try super hard on a model up front, because you can always put a little more work in. Like, you can always tune what you've got. It's kind of like writing. If you've ever like tried to write a story and heard about the, you know, give yourself permission to do a crappy rough draft, that's the same with miniatures. Give yourself permission to just get the paint on the mini. You can always make it better, always. With acrylics, you can paint over directly anything you've done, so that it's never set in stone. You're all good. Relax and have fun. Last year they had 3 tables. Yeah, we'll have paint and take tables then. One would think. Yeah, you know what? I'm about to do a video, Kerniko, on how to make your own contrast paints, because I bought some contrast paints and I've used them and I'm not impressed. So I would like to empower you all to make better contrast paint choices. So that's next month's Fundamentals of Mini Painting video. Like, I think I have to. I've got to. Like, I can't stand the shininess of them. I know I can varnish afterwards. I have a spray varnish, but, dang it. Yeah, I'm doing, the thing I like about the Bard Song thing is that I can just, maybe I'll just do a 4 of one thing and 2 of another thing and 1 of a big one. And, you know, I can just go back and forth like that, so. Yeah, the hobby hijinks are more popular than paint and take, because most people come to ReaperCon with, like, either you have a crap ton of minis with you, or you go to the vendor hall, which is a super awesome vendor hall, and you buy something that makes you excited and you paint that. Like, that's pretty much, that's why the paint and take doesn't do a lot at ReaperCon. And often, like they're, you know, it just, there are people at it, but it's not like, it's, the Sophie Says stuff is more fun. And so people are more likely to do that than to just paint and take, because the whole darn event is a paint and take. Let's face it. We're all camping at tables painting all con. So, oh, really? Yeah, maybe it's your humidity. Maybe it's just the colors that I bought, because I bought a very limited selection of colors. And I definitely got, like, with this yellow and this blue, I definitely got some shiny going on. So that is purely a very limited sample, though. And I know because I have heard that contrast paints vary a lot from color to color. So, yeah. Sometimes people do, if you have a battery powered or a rechargeable one Raven Day, it's a good idea. We have limited tables with lighting, like as far as having a socket, because we can't run cords all over the hall. It's a tripping hazard. So, like, some tables are close to electrical outlets and some aren't. Yeah, bring a portable light, something you can plug into a USB and charge, or something that's battery powered. Yeah, maybe it's the colors that are varying, Kerniko. That's interesting. That actually makes me want to buy a few more. Yeah, it was specifically the Leviathan blue was definitely shinier than I wanted it to be. And the Nazdrag yellow. Sophie Says has rules. Like, so if you want to just paint with people, just paint at ReaperCon. But if you do Sophie Says, they're going to tell you paint with your left hand, pass your mini to the person on your right. You know, it's not a serious learn stuff venue. The Sophie Says is its own beast. Be warned. All right, so let's get this going. Let's actually get some paint on this model. I'm having fun talking about cons with you guys. I'm having too much fun. Too much fun is in the air. Alrighty. But yeah, I'm looking forward to painting, putting some paint on board game minis. I'm going to do a sketch style, and then I'm going to do pretty much contrast paint, except I'm going to mix my own. I'm going to mix these up. I'm actually doing a 3-to-1 for my base on the rich leather. Because I've got small areas to hit, I'm thinning it a little bit more than I normally would. So it's kind of like this. You can see it's going to be a little transparent, but I can always put on another layer. I washed my bones, so it should be fine going on thinned. Yes, Sophie Says it's a blast, but anything was serious. And then this guy, the dark color, I'm doing 2-to-1. I'll start with 2-to-1. Sometimes with your darks, you want them to be pretty thin so that you can kind of like slowly blend into your shadows. There's a lot of little tiny areas and thin stripes on this NMM, so we're not going to worry about that so much. I can always do a spot blend if I have to. Essentially, I'm going to reverse engineer the ratios, Kuroniko, to create contrast paint with MSP, and probably using the brush on sealer. It should be actually pretty easy to figure out. So I think, because at least I'm using a lot of contrast paints that are pretty heavy. And then if you want them thinner, like I know their magenta or their pinky one is very, maybe it's the pink flesh. It's a really pale lavender, like pinkish magenta color. That one's really see-through, so that'd be different. But I think I can manage to, it's, War Shadow. The shadow is actually a mixture of russet brown and walnut. You never want to go straight to walnut when you're using a very yellow paint. It's going to create green. So mostly this 2 to 1, 2, 1, like the number of fingers, 2, 1. I usually do use russet brown, but I want it a little darker. These lines and little filigrees are very tiny, so I need a fair amount of drama. A lot of contrast. You just use a paint gun. But yes, let me get what do I want to do for my base coat brush? I actually whipped out some different brushes for the convention. I guess I'll use my beat up old, I'm about to retire this this Da Vinci. It's really, when its handle is covered in paint, you know I've been using it for a long time. And we'll just base coat with it, and then when we need finer control, we'll move to a different brush. So, all right, let's see here. Boys, so much fine little stuff. Let's see if this paint is gonna... Now, there are things like laces and a little gemstone here. I think I'm gonna paint over all of it to start with, because it's much easier to just paint over the area and then come back in with a shader to figure out like where things go. I am going to need, this is a little bit too thin. I am going to need one more drop of rich leather, I think. Like, I need it thin enough to come off my brush, but I need it thick enough to cover decently. At least give me a good start out the gate. As I mentioned in my class this weekend, I always start a little on the darker side with my NMM. I never start with like anything like the gold NMM midtone. I actually start with the gold NMM with essentially a shadow. If we were looking at it at a pentad, in a pentad way, like where you've got your highest highlight, your mid highlight, your mid-tone, your mid-shadow, and your shadow, then I'm starting with the mid-shadow. Oh, dearie me. Oh, late people, you missed it. We voted on what to replace Bunny with. That's all right. That just means early birds have benefits here on this stream. If you show up early, then sometimes you get to do special things like vote. Which is not to say that we do not love those of you who are showing up later in the stream, because, you know, better late than never. You could be wizards. You arrive only, like, exactly when you mean to. Who am I to question Gandalf? So all this little filigree stuff, this is where we really wish that we would have just base coated and lined everything before we did all these delicate pink highlights. But I was just like, yay, pink. And so I just forged ahead. So now I have to be super ultra careful with my brush control doing all the filigree. However, it is not a total emergency. So now in areas where you see that you went over things, here we go. All right. So there is definitely, this is a belt. So that's got to be dark. I think I'm going to use my NMM shadow color to block in some of this leather, because otherwise it gets very mixed up visually what's leather and what's not. They decided this guy, Agent Marvel. It was between him and the male hair folk. Since we just did Bunny, I put her brother in the run-in, but nobody wanted another rabbit so soon. So Bunny will go into the pile the pile of things that may show up. Bunny is handy. I took her to the con. Let me see. Can I reach her? Bunny. Bunny. Bunny was a class example. There's Bunny. 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 Oh, good, War Shadow. Yeah. Yeah, MSP airbrush is pretty good. Yeah, now that it's nice and warm out, I am kind of thinking about my airbrush, especially if I'm gonna be if I'm doing any bigger models. We'll have to see what I decide to do with myself over the summer. Trying to figure out what projects I want to play with over the summer. I have a few things that I've been excited about starting. But I didn't have the oomph to start them before the con because I had so much to get done this month. And in fact, I have to get my paint along videos done today. Luckily, I have already filmed one of them. I need to film the other one and do some editing and get them both up. That's for my Patreon. That is the patreon.com/paintingbig. So my paint along videos, we're doing 2 separate models because we're doing a 28mm because some people just prefer 28. And then we're also doing a bust this time because busts are their own creature. All right, so I'm just going to block in that dark leather. Half orcs. You know, I always like giving them kind of an olivey shadow to their skin tone, like using a tan, like humanish skin tone, but then using an olivey green shadow for half orcs. That's my favorite. He does have an angry bunny face. He's definitely more grumpy than his sister. That bunny. We'll block in our pouch. I may go with some black for the wood on this stuff and to alternate. When you've got a lot of leather on a model, you can totally alternate leather colors so that you aren't crisscrossing too much. There's things like a black, like a scabbard back here that would normally be like some sort of color, but it's right next to both the blue and the red pink. So back here, I'll probably make that scabbard black and then make the staff black, probably make the boots black. Because although repeating colors is great, using the same brown for all of those things would get a bit repetitive, I think. There's a little bit of kind of gold filigree on top of this pouch too, which I just noticed. Thank you, Bobby Jackson. Oh, bummer. Bummer, Kerniko. If you ask on the Discord, somebody might be willing to ship you one. You can always ask the friendly Discord community. Gosh knows there's enough of us over here in the States. You never know. Somebody might work right next to a post office or go to a post office regularly and could easily ship you one. There we go. Yeah, my spray booth is also in the garage. Exactly. Yeah, Raven Day. Yeah, Paint Along is part of the Patreon. It's my highest level Kodiak. We have a couple of completed models on there that we've done in past Paint Alongs, and then when you sign up for my Patreon, you get access to everything, including the entire back archive. So it's pretty much the best value Patreon. As far as it's like people are like, oh, I only give them access to current and going forward content. And I'm like, I'm like, nope, everybody gets everything. Merry Christmas. Early Christmas. Well, it is an expensive model, the Marika that we're doing, because she's metal. Like, she's a solid metal. We're doing her as a sea elf. She's a solid metal model. And, that hair will go darker, by the way. But, you know, for now. But yeah, so she is an expensive. That is the downside of everybody having voted for the Marika model. Yeah, she's a big model and she's cool. We're going to do bronze NMM armor on her. But yeah, but there's really no hurry. Of course, all of the episodes like stay accessible. If you ever sign up for my Patreon at the $15 level, you'll get access to it. So it's not like it's going to go away. It's only if you want to really paint along like month by month and that motivates you that it's, you know, then yeah, sure. You can make a case for signing up instantly. All right, what am I going to do? Part of me says maybe I make her pants black and her boots brown. I might have to do that. Alternating leather colors, just like, okay, because I don't want to make her pants brown. I think she'd be more likely to have black leggings. I might go black and black, but that could get confusing. These are the questions you ask yourself when you're kind of trying to alternate. I could have made her knees skin colored. That would have been totally okay. I just decided I didn't want to. She didn't want to be one of those mages. She wanted to be a mage actually wearing pants. Yeah, I do cover green stuff on Marika in the paint along. Like I do prep work in the paint alongs as needed. Alrighty. I guess I'm going to mix up some black too, just to be able to block in stuff. Where's my... I'll just use... Dragon Black. Let's use Dragon Black. I have a bottle of it sitting right here. Oh my gosh, that's an ancient movie. I am a bit more about Angela Lansbury and Murder, She Wrote. It's my favorite Angela Lansbury. Alrighty. So black, and I'm just going to do a 4-to-1 here. I just need to block in some black so that I know what I'm doing brown and doing everything else. So you guys will have noticed that sometimes this happens this way, where I'm painting things to completion and then moving on to the next section until I get to a certain point, and then I'm just like, all right, I need to block everything in. And that's pretty common. Oh, yeah. That's true. Double. No, I would be peeved at that too, Kerniko. I wasn't sure how much she was. I didn't remember. I bought her a while ago, and I've had her sitting in my collection, so I wasn't sure. I knew she was expensive, and I didn't remember how much. But yeah, you're right. For double the price is a little bit much. Plus shipping, right? Oh yeah, the Andy Peeper Drakes. David got a preview model of that. He's got one of the little drakes because he begged Jim for it. All right, we're gonna go black with the legs. Now this is gonna be pretty like it is dark, but this color's dark too, so it's like the only reason I can get away with this really is because I'm going to have gold here on the boots. The boots are going to have like metal fittings, plates. So I can essentially get away with the black here because the gold being kind of in a scallop on both sides will frame the leg here. So I only have a tiny bit of black that brushes up against this dark blue. So, like, just because these colors are really close together in one small area isn't a deal breaker, even though they're very close to each other. As long as you have other colors around them that are going to let you make sure that knee stands out as a knee and doesn't just run into the cloak, which, you know, the gold should do just fine. And on the other side, you're perfectly safe because it's surrounded by gold, or what will be gold. I do like going either dark brown or black with the handles of staves and wands and rods and things like this. It's not a very important part of the model, so it's actually, it's kind of funny. Okay, so it's not an important part of the model, but it usually does provide a diagonal angle compositionally. So it does, like, you know, she's leaning back and it gives you an opposing angle. So that makes the model more exciting as far as its posture. So you want this to like show up, but you don't want it to draw the eye, which is a weird thing. But doing it in a dark color, especially if you've got, you know, mid to light colors elsewhere on the model, usually works because then it stands out enough as far as contrast with the figure, but it doesn't actually encourage people to look at it like it would if it was a lighter color. You don't want people to sit there and stare at it. You just want them to like see it as part of the composition. So, steal the Drake. No, he's already got him glued down onto his base. He's using it as a hunting pet for a bigger dragon rider. So it's a little drake, like he's using it like it's a hound, a drake hound or something, like a hunter's pet for the guy who's riding the bigger dragon. Works pretty well, actually, since the drakes are wingless. There we go. Just get in there. Use a fairly small brush so that you can kind of get between areas around the fingers. And then you've got a nice kind of, you can see now that shows up. It's a very strong diagonal. This model is all about diagonals because we go up and down and up. So it is, you can see the dark. This is where like the dark colors are really connecting the composition of the figure here. And you've got the inverted triangle here, because she's got a wide stance and it goes up to the top. So all of our light colors are building up to an A shape. And then you've got almost more of an N shape here, but it's all diagonals. And diagonals are more exciting to the eye than if she was holding her arms at the like absolutely even instead of kind of off kilter, because this is another angle. So horizontal lines are very boring to the eye. What they tell us is stability is the message that they give. But too much of that is very boring to look at. And so for the best figures, you'll actually see more diagonal lines and triangles and that kind of thing. That's why this is a good sculpt. It's one of the reasons that it's pleasing to the eye. Yeah, Murder, She Wrote's just a modern Miss Marple, right? Kinda. But Murder, She Wrote is more deductive. It's not as, like, Miss Marple solves crimes by, like, thinking of human nature and people she knew a long time ago, right? I don't think Angela does that. She's more physical clues. If I recall, Murder, She Wrote was a long time ago for me, but... Alrighty, so what am I going to do with these boots? Now, the boots I will run into problems with if I go with this black, because I think it's going to be too close right here and here. So I think I actually do have to go brown with the boots, because the black is going to fade into this dark blue a lot easier than the brown. The brown is at least warmer, and I can highlight the brown with lighter colors. Hello, Gerard Monster. Thank you. I'm just trying to block in my remaining colors right now so that I can get my gold done. I started doing my gold and I realized I had these leather straps and other stuff that was kind of like getting in my way. I wanted to block it all in. So we're taking a small segue to paint in our leather color base coats before we finish off our brass and gold NMM here, getting it blocked in. And using the same color for my base coat on my leather and the shadows on my NMM, which is essentially what I'm doing, is absolutely feasible because the NMM shadows are going to be very small. And they're probably not even going to really read, like consciously, you're not really going to notice it's necessarily the same color unless you look closely at it. Because the shadows are going to be so small. And also, the leather on the boots and everywhere else is going to be highlighted also, right? So it's going to be highlighted with different colors than I'm using on the gold. So that's going to push them apart. So you can use a color like the shadow for one thing can be the midtone for another thing and the highlight for another thing. Like you can absolutely get away with that, and you can still make all those colors read differently if you're using different tones for the highlight, the different colors for the highlights and shadows. Alrighty, nothing back here that needs to be leather. Whether the arms are gold or leather, I'm going to leave up to the end. I may want to make them like kind of gold rimmed, but actually put a color in them. I'm kind of thinking they might need to be blue, for example. I'm thinking that these guys need to be this color. And whether I put a little fine gold rim on them, just freehanded or not, we'll just like, I'll just figure that out. But I am leaning strongly, because the blue is all down here, and I am leaning strongly toward putting the blue more up here. Alrighty, I think we've got our leather kind of blocked in. Alright, let's get the rest of this blue in. So we are doing it. This is technically does count as a red, yellow, blue color scheme. Which is why I think Wizard Guy has to be orange and purple. I don't think we've painted anything orange and purple yet on stream. I'm sure there's something. I guess the Wyvern. But he was more like red and purple, so... We haven't painted like a human in like orange, so I think that's my call on Mr. Wizard. And we really should paint something else yellow coming up at some point too. But not the greenish yellow. I haven't thought about that yet, Corsair. The cape needs a lot more work on it, and then I will see if the cuffs look naked. That's the sort of decision I don't make right away. The cuffs, I will never put freehand on something just to put freehand on it. So, and I won't do it just to, quote, tie it in. Because, frankly, just repeating the color is enough to tie it in. So, what you have to ask yourself with freehand is don't think about the tie it in thing. Think about, does it fit? Like, do you feel like you need it? Like, after we base coat these, and we've got all of the symbols in on the cloak, if I look at this, does it seem naked? Does it seem like it needs it? I'm willing to bet you that it won't, because it's so small. The places that tend to read as needs something are when they're quite large. And this is going to have highlights and shadows, which are going to break up that space. And as I mentioned, I might even do a gold edge around it. If I do a gold edge around it, then it definitely doesn't need any freehand symbol. Yeah, so you really have to like kind of judge it. The mirror cracked from side to side. The Lady of Shalott movie. That's one of my favorite Miss Marples. I think it's one of the best Miss Marple books. It's a great book. I recently, like within the last few years, I think it was during the pandemic, I actually reread all the Hercule Poirots and all the Miss Marples in order. Because I did grow up on Agatha Christie and I do still love her books and I own it all on Kindle. But yeah, never do freehand just for freehand's sake or because you feel like, well, I've got freehand here, I need it there. Just because you have freehand in one place doesn't mean you need it in everywhere or need it in another place. Kind of use your eye and say, you know, is this really big and boring and is it just screaming out for freehand? Or is it interesting enough just putting like a gold edge around it and some nice highlighting and shading on it? You know, that's kind of the question mark. Oh, I'm off camera. Yes, Agatha Christie was cool. Super cool. I think she also, I'd have to go and reread this book that I read recently, but I think she also wrote romance under a pen name. But of course is far more known for her mysteries. Alrighty. And that little edge up there is also going to be gold. I like the shrewd Miss Marple. Like she does portray herself as rather silly. You know, everybody always underestimates Miss Marple because she's a fluttery old lady. But I really like the shrewdness in her. I even liked it when I was a little kid. I think that's really the appeal. Like as reading her as a kid, is I liked that she was an old lady, but she was really shrewd and smart, and nobody got it, right? Because as a kid, you can think that you're smart, and nobody gets you either. Like, it's kind of something that, like, the elderly and kids have in common, is that people are always underestimating them. And so I feel like that would let me connect with the character as reading Agatha Christie as, like, a preteen and teen. So I do like my shrewd Miss Marple more than the silly Miss Marple. Yes, exactly. Margaret Rutherford. Oh, okay. I'm familiar with that name. Yeah, the Poirot. I mean, I think Poirot is her best detective, but I think Miss Marple's a close second. Like, I enjoy both for different reasons. Obviously, Poirot, you can get a lot more kind of high profile in the cases he covers, and you'll never get that with Miss Marple. But but I do like the human nature stuff with Miss Marple. I do like the way she solves crimes. So I do have my mom was always a big reader of mysteries, and so I always would steal her library books to read on occasion if they sounded interesting, and my dad liked Agatha Christie, so we had some Agatha Christie in the house. So I actually grew up reading a lot of mysteries, and I still, even though I write fantasy and I still read a lot of fantasy, I really have a soft spot for mystery novels. So I'm also a big P.D. James fan, although of course her writing is grittier. But I love Adam Dalgliesh. I own almost all of those books. Like she's just a great writer. Like as just her literature is fantastic. Yeah, I read a lot of the Cadfael books. I feel like Ellis Peters maybe got a little bit repetitive in later books. Like I remember kind of like not enjoying them so much past the like 8th or 10th. I don't know. Like there was a point in the series where I was just like I kind of fell out of it, but I love like the first several books in the Cadfael series, especially when you're still like learning about the world and you're still like like the politics and they're all they feel very different. Each one feels very different. I'm not a Nero Wolfe fan. I never got into Nero. I tried him. I read a couple of them, but as a teenager, they didn't appeal to me. And maybe it's because I'm a girl, because those are very. I feel like those are in the manner of like noir detective. Like they are. I think a very masculine written book. And I liked plenty of masculine writers. I mean, I was a Kipling fan as a kid, for Lord's sake, and I was directly criticized for that, by the way. Thank you, sexist teachers of my younger years. Um, but yeah, Nero never. I never really caught on with him. He was not my fave. He was cool and smart, but Archie was cool. I do remember liking the character doing all the legwork and thinking that he was kind of a crock that he never got credit. Oh, nice. Yeah, I could see how Cadfael would be actually better on a TV series. Nice. Yeah, I own several of those. If you like that kind of period culture kind of mystery, there is an interesting set. My great aunt, before she passed, she was a huge mystery reader as well, and she's the one who actually introduced me to Cadfael. But she also introduced me to a writer called Arthur Upfield, who wrote a Detective Bonaparte series set in Australia in like the early 1900s, early-ish 1900s, earlier 1900s. So her main detective is a half caste, so half Aboriginal and half human. They're very fanciful in a lot of ways, and nowadays maybe would be considered like, I don't know, like he's definitely writing of the time and the culture, right? So it is very racist in points as far as the way some things are portrayed, but it's interesting too the way that the early Australia of the early 1900s is portrayed. So I don't know, maybe your cup of tea, maybe not. Upfield is pretty famous when he was writing, and I feel like the first several books are quite good. Adult comic version of the Archie comics. That makes sense. Yeah, Cadfael series is cool. Um, there are a few others I like. Every once in a while, I'll run into an author that I really like. Oh, of course. If you haven't read the Lord Peter Wimsey series, that's one of my all-time faves. Miss Fisher series. All right, I'll kind of remember that. Anybody else like into if you liked Agatha Christie, did you ever read the Peter Wimsey series by help me guys here, Dorothy Sayers? If you haven't, you should. If you have not read Dorothy Sayers' Lord Peter Wimsey series and you are into classic mystery fiction, it's set between the First and Second World Wars. I really enjoy just the wittiness of her writing. Nobody quite can do it. Nobody can quite do it quite like Dorothy. Yeah, that's the funny thing, right? Is like, especially nowadays with digital, the great thing about it is that like your book is always new to somebody, right? Like writers that have been around since the 30s or 40s are getting a whole new life as people discover them now, you know, or even older. I really love it. It's really cool. There's always a new book. There's always a new or an old book, but they're always new to you because you haven't experienced them yet. I just love that about the current like digital revolution and ebooks. Because now it used to be that a book would go out of print just because nobody could afford to warehouse it if it was only selling, you know, a few copies here and there. But now with digital, it doesn't cost anything to keep it available. So now books don't just they have a better chance of not just disappearing, right? Now there are a lot of books out there, and so maybe it gets buried in the signal and the noise and all that, but it's really cool. Dorothy Sayers. Sayers. Dorothy Sayers. Lord Peter Wimsey. If you Google Lord Peter Wimsey, you will find it. It is famous. Yeah, no problem. I'm about 1,000,000 books behind. Me too. Worse, I just joined my local writers group has a book club once a month. Happily, a couple of the books that we've read since I joined it have been books that I have read in the past. Like we went back and reread Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson to talk about it in book club, which was interesting because it had been like 20 years since I read that book. I hadn't read it since it came out. Maybe longer than 20 years. So it was kind of cool to go back and reread it after so many years and see what I remembered and what I didn't remember. I start with the mid-shadow war shadow. So this is a darker color than, like, if you look at the NMM Gold Triad or most people's NMM Triads, they will start with more of a yellow ochre color. But I find that is too light, especially when you are working over a light primer. So either a light gray or a white primer. It tends to turn really yellow. Any yellow, even a yellow ochre or yellow oxide, tends to turn really yellow over a light primer. And I don't like that. I like my gold to work up toward yellow, but you can't make it like too yellow or it looks weird and artificial. So I start with what I call the mid shadow. This isn't the darkest shadow, but it's a shadow to the mid-tone. Oh, sure, Gerard. Have fun at work. Hope you have a good day. Yeah, that's true, Turgeon. That's true. Or they're on Kindle and Nook, but they never do anything, right? Yeah, I get frustrated nowadays because I've been reading a lot of indie authors because indie books are getting better and better. And like when you can pick up a fairly enjoyable series for like, $3.99 or $4.99 a book, and then you go to check out like a new series that you got recommended and it's traditionally published and they're charging $12 for an ebook, and you're just like, no. It's like sticker shock. And I'll do it, but like I'll do it like every once in a while. Like I'm on a budget. I'm on a book budget. I can't be as reckless as I was when I was a kid. I would just buy and buy and buy. Like that's what I did when I got money for my birthday or whatever, or a Christmas present. I would just buy books. That's all I would do. And I was like, and we went to the library every freaking week because I went through books like super fast. Lately, I've been reading again in the evenings because it tires my brain out nicely, and I can like do my stretches and read my book at the same time. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, when my book comes out, my first book will be 99 cents. The ones after that might have to be $3.99 because I write long books. And it seems like that scales with length. Like there's a lot of great indie books out there for like they're like $1.99 or $2.99, but they're like 60,000 words or 70,000 words. All my stuff's like 100K. It took longer. All right, so and then we need some gold up here. I'm debating whether I want this little U shape to actually be gold, or if I want to make it like, if I want to do the purple blue thing, like if maybe I want to make it like the red and make the little ball blue or something. I don't know. So I'll leave that where it is, and I'm not going to paint it in gold because I want color composition and I like to repeat my colors. So I knew that the interior ball was either going to be pink or blue, probably blue just because it, we've got pink up top but not blue. But then I thought if we do these bracers blue, I might want this to be pink. So we'll see. Lord Whiny series. Oh, 99 for the first book in Peter Wimsey. Good, yeah. And one of your coworkers. The Whimsy books are just fun. They're just like fantastic fun. She's such a good writer, and her characters, like she can do witty characters really well. Oh, that's okay, guys. We know autocorrect is a thing. Hashtag hate autocorrect. And like drunk thumbs are totally a thing. That's what I always used to call it, is drunk thumbs. My thumbs are drunk. I can't be held responsible for my terrible typos or my autocorrects that I don't catch. Alrighty. Phone typing is garbage, and it also hurts my hands eventually. I get repetitive stress disorder if I type too much. Now, this is pulling a lot of gold together. And the reason you can get away with that with NMM, yeah, autocorrupt, exactly. The reason you can get away with that with NMM is that it's not going to stay this color, because you know you're going to bring in really sharp shadows and highlights, and that's going to keep it visually interesting here, even though I've got gold coming up against gold. So that's why I feel you can do this. It's still not optimal. You'd still kind of want something in between these, but if you don't have a choice, like, you can do that. Now here, actually, I could bring dark brown in here, but then that would be up against the knee, and I'm more interested in keeping that knee visible than I am with messing with all this. So, Corsair. So that's why I'm kind of sitting there going, no. Now I am feeling like maybe this center panel here needs to be the blue. Let's do that. I've got ultramarine shadow right here. We can do it. We have the technology. I think computers are just messing with us sometimes. The $6 million mini? with all the gold. I'm assuming it's just cloth of gold, like in gold embroidery, gold thread. So we'll pop that in there, and I like that. That actually brings in that blue more here in the center. And on that note, I'm going to bring that blue in more down here on these little tassels. And that'll help repeat the colors across the model, which helps it look good. Ah, I blorfed. Blorf, a little bit of water. Hope we can get it up. If not, we just go over it. You can paint over anything with acrylics. And one thing we haven't done is we haven't lined like some of the outside parts of this gold. So it's not standing out great. So we're going to do that. I think blue bracers actually wore shadow. Because from the back, you've got more pink here, so you'd go blue. Alternate whenever possible. Let's see here. Boop. Oh, and I'll touch up that little bit. Boop. Excellent. Have a good lunch, Shadow Raven. All right, so we've done some dark lining around the outside of this loincloth area, which I totally missed before. So I'm just mixing my dark brown and my black to create a liner color in this case. So now we're a little closer. Let's see, what is today? It's going to be June 1st tomorrow. So we will be exactly 4 weeks from finding out. Actually, we'll be exactly 3 weeks soon. Tomorrow we'll be exactly 3 weeks from finding out how many puppies there are. And then we'll be 4 weeks from seeing the puppies actually in their little, like, as baby Shiloh sausages, actually out in the real world. So there's your pup date. It's like the 20th or 22nd is when the ultrasound is. Or sorry, X-ray. X-ray is. The X-ray should give us a better head count. That's okay. You've displaced Shadow Raven. Shadow Raven has popped out of existence and you have popped in, Dogfather. It's all good. We kept the balance. The stream has not come completely unbalanced and veered off into the ether. Yes, pup date. Yes, we did a lot today. You're right. We voted on a wizard for the mini to replace the bunny. So he's going to be our next person, our next mini personality. And we've been talking a lot about mystery novels and series, and we've been good, and we've gotten a lot of colors selected on this. Now that's a lot of gold, and I knew it was going to be a lot of gold. Now some of this is going to change because these like gemstones will break up the gold a bit. The other thing we can do, which is something we now have to consider, is now that we've got all the gold on here, and you can see, and this is what I'm talking about when I'm like, you have to follow your gut as far as your color choices go. Once you get all of this gold mapped in, you're like, wow, that is a lot of gold. But then you notice, wait, we have an opportunity here, because on these big parts here, we actually have 3 little things, right? We've got a center band and 2 outer bands. And that means that this center band, we could actually paint a different color. So we could bring our blue in down here, and that would cut some of the gold. I think I don't want to do that down here on this loincloth, even though I can see the center band. But everything is so close together down here, I think I'd rather do it as pure NMM. But on these big panels right here on either side of the leg, I think that I can do that successfully, and it will help me introduce, again, it'll help me introduce another section of blue down here, repeat the blue across the model, make it more a key player by expanding the amount of area it takes up. Because a lot of the blue in here I'm going to shade down quite a bit because it's in the shadows. So if I want the blue to be a player on the front of the model, then looking for other places to put it is a good idea. And this is an obvious place to put it. So to do that, we're going to do we're going to block it in dark, underpaint white, and put the blue over the top. Because if we try to put the blue over the brown here, it's going to go very dark. Because when you've got a dark, vibrant color like this ultramarine shadow, putting it over anything but a very light color will really dim it out. It really, you won't be able to see that beautiful blue as well. So I definitely want to go back in with my really dark brown mixed with a bit of black. And essentially block in the center section, leaving the border. And it's just easier to do this whole section dark and then paint a white stripe down the middle than it is to try to just paint super thin edge lines at this point. So this is an easier way to do that. Rather than having to paint a dark shadow around the edge of this area and do 2 really thin lines that are really accurate, you can just paint the entire thing dark and then just paint a white stripe down the middle. It's a lot easier. So see how that breaks up? Like, it's very, very blingy over here, but even that one step to break up the surface makes a huge difference over here, because that's one of the broadest areas of gold. So you can see that even that small change has made a big difference in the composition, color composition. If I have a favorite classic author, it's probably Rudyard Kipling. Although there's so many amazing authors from yesteryears. And that their works are still readable just, like, shows you, like, it just brings home the humanity. Like, I love thinking about people in ancient time because, you know, they were just humans like us. They were just, like, didn't have cell phones, you know? And I love anything that brings that point home, where really people have been people all along, and the only thing that's changed about us is our accessories. I was a huge Jungle Books fan. Not the movie, the actual Jungle Books. Like, I was just fascinated by them. I love them, love them, love them. There, got some gold on that dagger handle. Now, I am a little bit of a bind here. I think I still feel like I'm going to go black here because I can't go blue because it's up against the cloak, and I can't go pink because it's right here. So the dagger handle almost certainly needs to be black. And because it's now, if we were painting her in a lot of dark colors, then this would be a good place to maybe put a pop of brighter color along with the gemstones. But because everything is so bright, we have the opposite problem. So we really want this dagger handle to go kind of neutral. So we're just going to paint it in black. So it doesn't clash with anything, and it's just going to make a boundary between the pink and the blue here. And then the handle here is going to have to be pink, because it's definitely like it's against brown, gold, and blue. So there is a tiny bit of pink there, but I've shaded it out. So yeah, so the pink makes the most sense there. Hello, Riot. Yeah, it's kind of a win. You're right, Dogfather. All right, pure white. I'm going to go in and block in those inner areas in white so that I can hit them in blue. Although you can see where I could go black with these. I could go black with these panels. If I wanted to really make the black a player, I could. But as most of my black is down in this area, I probably won't. I think the dark blue is going to be dark enough. You're into Western, Sun Corsair. I never got into them. Like, I read some, like, kind of young adult, teen kind of Western stories when I was a kid, because I just like stories with animals in them, so stories with horses were definitely part of that. But, okay, so we've got some white. I'm going to thin it about 2 or 3 to 1. I want it to be thin enough to come off my brush in that thin line. And white is so high coverage that you can thin it a lot and still get good, good coverage. Nice. Yeah, I got my dad's Master and Commander books. I always forget. Is it Patrick O'Brien? Is it Patrick O'Brien? I think it's Patrick O'Brien. So I read several of those. But I actually am a bigger fan of Bernard Cornwell. I love the Sharps Rifles series, like as far as historical fiction goes. Totally love the Sharps. Still go back and reread the Sharps Rifles series every once in a while. So really thin line, easy to do with the white paint, relatively so. If you mess this up, rather than trying to paint the thin line to correct it, I would actually repaint it just all the big dark brown and then go back over with the white. It is always going to be easier to put a stripe down the middle than to try to, say, touch up a little area. But honestly, if it's just a little wobble like that, you can leave it. Because once you put the blue over the top, it's going to be dark enough. Yeah, Where the Red Fern Grows was one of my favorite books as a kid. That one's a little harder because it's very, very thin. But we just need a little bit. Now, Yeah, Herumfenstein, this is the small scale I paint. I never enjoyed the smaller stuff because it's not the fine detail. Like it's like I like models with really cool details on them, and when you get down to 20 or 6, there are no cool details on the model. There are just details. There are just faces. You can't paint cool eyes or a cool face. You just have to paint something that looks like a face, and that doesn't appeal to me at all. So I had a friend who used to paint, I think, 10 millimeter Scots, like in one of the historical gaming um, systems. And I looked at his stuff, and his stuff looked cool because the Scots, he could do like little simple tartans on them. But like that was an exception, and most of that small stuff, like I call myself, like, my moniker is painting big for a reason. My Patreon is painting big. My YouTube is painting big. There's a reason I chose painting big. It's because I far prefer painting larger models. I would never, like, there's been times I would like to give up 28s because I enjoy bigger models so much more. So if I did anything, it wouldn't be to go smaller, it would be to go bigger. Yeah, that was actually John Kovalik. If those of you are familiar with him, he's a cartoonist who did the Wildlife comics and the Dork Tower series. When I was in college, I worked at a game store in Madison, Wisconsin, which is where John lived. I don't know if he still lives there or not, but that was his army. Like, and of course he was a cartoonist, so he could draw. So doing like tartan on those little guys was like, you know. But I remember him bringing them by the store, and we were all going, "Wow." He was a better painter than me. Well, it's just like okay, on 10 millimeter, like, you're only that tall, right? So you're gonna just do a face and hit a basic highlight and maybe do a couple of shadows where the eyes should be. Like, that's it. Like, I'm sure you can elevate it to a really high level if you can do fine detail at the scale that I can, but you're not gonna do eyes. You never have to paint another set of eyes. There's your plus. Right, right. Right, exactly. Yeah, I get it, Rumpelstiltskin, especially if you're in the from the gaming angle, the scale makes sense. But as far as enjoying painting, nah. I prefer like Warhammer. If I'm gonna do, like, I like gaming at the 28 millimeter scale because I don't want to have to paint a crap ton of little models. I want to paint a few bigger guys who are interesting and be done. So yeah. Yeah, with BattleTech it's an exception, right? Because your mechs are kind of around the like 28 to 40 millimeter, but then your infantry guys are teensy. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, tiny stuff is just, it's its own art, and like it has its own rules at that scale as far as what you're gonna have look good. You can get away with a lot more kind of simplistic patterns and they still look really good at that scale. Like, I would say that just being clean is almost enough at the 6 or 10 millimeter. Just having a clean paint job. So we've got our stripes. Now, another thing we could consider as we're sitting here looking at this is she does have white hair. If I really wanted to, I could put in paler details if I wanted to double down on the silver hair. But I really don't. The silver hair is there to really attract your attention up here. So down here, I really probably don't want to repeat that white silver, or it's going to pull the eye down. Will it pull the eye around the model? Yeah, it will, but I just don't want to take the chance, because the other problem with this is that it's so fine and sharp, it's like freehand. So it may actually pull your eye before the hair does, and that's definitely not what I want. I want you looking at the face first, the face and the top part of the model. You shouldn't be looking like at the lower part of the model until later in the viewing process. We're on Tuesday, right? So is it Crow's Nest? Am I right? So now we get that blue down there. And I like that a lot, actually. That was a good choice. Yeah, I just did a little extra because, you know, I wasn't on yesterday or Friday. So I figured it didn't hurt to do some extra time today. But I'll call it shortly after I get these stripes painted in. So now we've got some blue. We've got our blue repeated a lot more now. It's not just on the cape. It's in the center here. I'll probably do the laces lighter though. It's down here on these panels. It's down here on these little ribbons. So our blue is a lot more around the model now. It's definitely a main player now. It's not just an accent. When you have another vibrant color on the model, but it only appears a couple places or it's smaller, then it tends to read more like an accent color, where then our red violet would be our main color. And the cape supports this because there's a lot of red violet and there's just the blue down the middle. But then now we've pulled that blue in, and even though the red violet is still the main player, it's got the blue supports its own weight now. So, oh, John is the guest on Crow's Nest. That's cool. I am going to underpaint these little stripes here on the bodice just to remind myself that I need to do those in gold. And I think I may get the little strings as well. Whenever you've got a fine detail that you have to paint, like having a dark background and then doing them in white underpainting is a good way to get them to stand out. You can paint over the top of the white, and it will usually stand out a little bit better. Oh, there's the J. He's trying to get my attention. That was the scrub jay. Big, big guy. Very large bird. So I think now at the start of this coming month, usually if I'm going to buy a larger purchase, I'll do it at the start of the month after I get paid. And I think I'm going to get a fountain. I have it in my Amazon cart. So then the birds and the beasts will also have a drinking thing. Because it gets very dry out here. There we go. So getting those etched in with the white helps to break up that space and to bring out that detail as well. So whatever color I make that, probably gold. I'm not going to put peanuts out in the yard at this point, Kurnigo, because, one, I don't have peanuts, and two, if I have a puppy, I do not need the puppy trying to eat peanut shells that are discarded by the birds. Not a good idea. That puppy is going to want to eat everything. I'm going to have a hard enough time keeping mulch out of her mouth, okay? Yes, gotta be. I am already thinking about puppy proofing. Like, David's like, what's puppy proofing? I'm like, oh, you have so much to learn. So, yeah. Alrighty, folks. What we did today, we chose our new model to replace Bunny, which is going to be Wizard Dude, also called Damrus Deveril. I'm going to just call him Wizard Dude. And then we talked a lot about awesome books. And we, blocked in a lot of this model. She's looking like she's going to look really cool. She's going to kind of look like a court wizard, I think, because of her elaborate getup. So she looks really neat. I'm thrilled. I'm like, this is going to be a good looking mini. And it's an interesting color scheme too. So I like it. So thank you for hanging out and keeping us company and contributing and voting and telling people all the good books they should read. Yeah. And we'll be back tomorrow, and we are centauring tomorrow. So we'll be working probably on doing the scale texture on the back part here. I think I want to get this kind of blocked in with any leather, the leather wrap around the edges. Probably go light leather on that, and then the scaling here. I need to figure out like how I want to do it. So we'll be doing a lot of scale texture on the little armor bits here, and kind of figuring out how we want to tackle it. So yeah, that's what we're up to. So I hope you all come back tomorrow. There is technically kind of maybe sort of probably a crow's nest later today with John maybe as the dude. 95% sure that crow's nest will be on. So come back for that. And pepper the chat with questions. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.